Bible Answers with Dr. Al Garza.
All right, welcome back to Bible Answers. I am your host, Dr. Al Garza. So today I'm going to answer some questions that I've been asked about these Hebrew New Testament manuscripts that I've been finding. One of the questions that I usually get is basically, how am I finding these manuscripts? Where am I getting them from? As well as, the differences between them and what they contain. So let me start with this. It is time consuming. Takes a lot of hours to sort through different manuscripts online, especially from the National Library in Israel, as well as other libraries connected with these manuscripts. Some of these codexes that are online have been scanned. They're miscellaneous texts that I have to go through, Hebrew texts, codexes I got to sort through to find these manuscripts that might be labeled in there, as well as just complete New Testament manuscripts that are already scanned. Some of them I have to purchase online through the National Library in Israel. They have to scan it for me and then send it to me, and I have to download it. So a lot of them I put in PDF format. A lot of them are scanned as pictures, individual manuscripts that I have to go through one by one. So it's basically searching through the database online through the different libraries, either connected with Israel, the National Library of Israel, as well as the different libraries around the world that have also uploaded the documents and actually put them out there, or you have to be ordered, or they could only be viewed in the library itself. Now, of course, I haven't gone out there to look at the ones that have not been uploaded and scanned. It'll tell you right there, only viewable at the library. So you would have to travel there and request it and look at it from that point. But the ones I have received, and I put on there about almost 4,000, I'd say about 4,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts that I have personally found, have on my flash drive, printed out in PDF format, digitized in my computer and on my iPad, so I can study them individually. Now, again, this is not going out there and looking. It's spending literally hundreds of hours sorting through them online, and of course, going through them to try and find these manuscripts. Now, they're there. Now, remember one thing. It was the scholarly consensus before that no Hebrew manuscript of the New Testament, if written in Hebrew, they never existed. We don't have anything preserved today. That was the original consensus of scholars, at least within here in the West and other parts of the world, that we don't have surviving manuscripts of the New Testament in Hebrew, period. And now that we have them, and we have thousands of them, some of the arguments now change. The goalpost has moved to, well, they're all copies of. They're all, copies from another language, translated from Greek or Latin or some other language. Well, again, if you haven't studied and looked at the text themselves, you're just jumping to conclusions without even looking at the evidence. And that is really a shame. It is poor scholarship to even think that way without examining the text. Yes, some of these manuscripts do probably come from, and I would say there are some that I've come across that appear to come from a different language translated into Hebrew, but that doesn't make them less valuable. That still makes them very valuable as compared to what we have today in the different languages, Greek, Latin, and other languages that we have manuscripts in. And now again, whether or not they're translated to me from a different language is not really relevant, because I want to see how a Jewish scribe, translated or even wrote from a copy of another Hebrew text, how they wrote and copied and translated it to what we have today. If I have 5 different scribes from different time frames, hundreds of years apart, copying a manuscript in Hebrew, or into Hebrew if you want to say, I want to see what manuscripts they were using possibly, how far they can be dated back traditionally, the Hebrew words or mindset of how a Jew would have translated either from a Latin or a Greek into Hebrew. What did he understand from tradition as far as how these words were used back then of the Second Temple period during the time of Yeshua, Jesus? Or if they come from an earlier Hebrew source text that we just don't have right now, we haven't discovered. There are manuscripts online that I have looked at that haven't been scanned. Their catalog, the date is unknown. Now, that to me is also very important because we don't have a date from. Could they be earlier dates of the 3rd, 4th, 5th century, or even earlier than that? I don't know. I haven't gotten a hold of those manuscripts, but they are cataloged and date is unknown. So I haven't been able to look at those or see where they might come from. But again, this is what we get. We have scholars who are so bent on a Greek premise manuscripts, and that's it, that anything outside of that has no really value. Specifically Hebrew, a Hebrew manuscript that was copied or even translated. These attest to the gospel message, and from a Hebrew Jewish standpoint, that we get that perspective from, that go back to an ancient Semitic language of even to the Hebrew Old Testament. So we got to consider the value of these manuscripts, regardless if you consider them a translation from another language or possibly going back to an earlier Hebrew source text. These are about 4,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts that most scholars didn't even know existed. In fact, again, the consensus was we don't have these surviving copies if they even existed anyway. And now that we have them, they're, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, people just make excuses for them. That they're this copy or that, or it doesn't matter. They are a witness to the gospel message and the language and tongue of Jesus himself, the Messiah, that can go back to the Second Temple period, 1st century, an ancient Semitic language that has been preserved in these manuscripts, that we can go and see how far can we trace them back. So to me, they are really important. They need to be examined and taken seriously. I am trying to work on translating these manuscripts and seeing what they have in there and translating them into an English translation with showing the variants, of course. And the variants, to me, I found are just like the Greek. They're minor, with spelling or omitted word here or there or something. It's not really dramatic, but yet, to somebody who is a believer that Yeshua, Jesus, is, God manifested in the flesh, in the Trinity concept, well, then you might not like any of these Hebrew manuscripts, because the majority of them that I have, and I haven't come across one that doesn't affirm Jesus as Adonai, that he is, God. Pretty much all the manuscripts I have, almost 4,000 of them, affirm this one way or the other. Separate scribal hands, separate Jews writing this, copying them, translating them, affirm Jesus as Adonai in these texts, even with the vowel pointings. The divine name, which is used to pronounce Yehovah, is in these different manuscripts as well. Not just the ones that were located at the Vatican Library by other scholars, not just the one that was used in I think another manuscript outside of that. These are different manuscripts, complete New Testament manuscripts for the most part, some of them incomplete, that do have the divine name with the full vowels. So one from Rome, one from Germany, they have the divine name as Yehovah with the full vowels, dating hundreds of years apart. So that's very interesting, because it's not just the ones at the Vatican that were discovered, and I think another one as well. These are different. So that just affirms that idea and concept that these Jews writing or copying believe that the name was Yehovah with the full vowels. So we need to look at these manuscripts, take them seriously. This is how I'm locating them. I'm locating them online, doing hours and hours, hundreds of hours of research to find these manuscripts, trying to get a hold of them, contacting the libraries, and hopefully getting copies of them scanned. As well as, I know there's another group out there who says they have 2,000, and I think they're looking at the Catalan as well as the India manuscripts, the manuscripts from India. I have those, and I have almost about 2,000 more. So they claim to have the world's largest Hebrew New Testament catalog of manuscripts. They don't. If they are only claiming 2,000, I'm sorry, but I have about 4. And I have other manuscripts that are digitized, that have not been really studied or looked at, that I haven't seen, that I have found. So, again, I know there's a lot of groups out there working with less manuscripts or claiming other things. I can tell you I have about approximately 4,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts in my possession, as well as I know where they're at online. I've cataloged some of them. I PDF'd, printed them that are clear so I can study them, as well as have them digitized again on my computer for study. So this is how I'm locating them. This is how I'm finding them. They are just a treasure chest of information, wealth of information about the New Testament that not only affirm the other manuscripts we have, the Greek, Latin, and so forth, and the gospel message, but really amplify it from an ancient Near Eastern Semitic language in Hebrew. So this is what makes it, even if you call it Mishnaic Hebrew, it still goes back to a Hebrew language, which goes back to being, again, the original language of the Torah. And it's just amazing to see how we need to consider them as far as being important and relevant to our New Testament studies. So, there's more I can say on this, but I'll keep it short today. I've got a lot more work to do. I want to thank you for all the supporters out there who've helped with donations and help with, sending funds in to help with this work. Thank you again, and please keep it coming. If you want to support this ministry, you can buy one of my books online at Amazon. You can go to the website, dralgarza.org, and donate there. One-time donation, monthly donation, it all helps. It all goes into keeping this project going, as well as putting them in publication, printing them, and so forth. So I want to thank you for all the support and listeners out there. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me at dralgarza@email.com. You can find that on my website, dralgarza.org. If you want to buy some books on Amazon at my website. I have some short books on this topic that I did a couple years ago. They haven't been updated yet, but we have some of the manuscripts in there as well as what's in them. So again, I want to thank you for all your help. Keep us in prayer. Keep me in prayer that I can keep this going before I look for other outside help. But I want to thank you all for all the support. Thank you for listening and subscribing. And please, share this, like it, subscribe. And again, get the word out. We have New Testament Hebrew manuscripts, approximately 4,000. When they said they didn't exist or did not survive, we have them. So thank you again for all the support. God bless, and talk to you soon.
Bible Answers with Dr. Al Garza.